Okay, M28 Missing Manual. So I'm going to talk to you about or explaining the things, the flaws of M28, how to fix some things, and I put it on my screen here because it's easier. I put down the lights and there is no practical things. I'm just going to talk about how it is and what's what. So, buttons. Version 1 had 2 magnets. Version 2 had 1 magnet. Version 3 had 1 magnet, and version 4 is 1 magnet. If you have version 1, you should replace them because they corrode in the epoxy. Then with the M28, on the side of the board is, so we are talking about now here and here, on the edge of the board there is a sensor that can sense the presence of a magnet. So when if the magnet is here and then you push in, then suddenly the magnet will be here, so it will sense that. And we used to calibrate the magnets and they deteriorate over time, and then suddenly water comes inside here and then it rusts and then it's completely gone. Now all the magnets are auto-calibrated, so when you put a new button in and you push it once, done, it will auto-calibrate itself. The value, I think, is like, we were talking about, maybe the new magnets are more like, let's say that the value is 1300, and now they rust and they come down to 400. It still works because it calibrates and it recalibrates itself, but at one point they will just completely be gone. And one thing is that they lose the magnetic, but they will also expand. So when they are rusting, you have the magnet down here, it will become like this, swollen, like this. This means that you cannot push them in or they will get stuck. So this version had epoxy, this version had a black plastic cover on the top, matte, and the latest version is a countersunk. So when you look it from the side, a little bit from an angle, you should see that the epoxy is countersunk like this and shiny. Then you know you have the version 4 for the magnets. Also, when you put in the magnet, here you have the opening on the side of the M28. There is a spring here that is down inside the hole. This is the direction of the magnet, and then it goes in like this. And when you take it out, please make sure that you don't lose the screw and because that is not easy to find in a hardware store, I can tell you. It's an M3 or something, and it's stainless steel. They come in black, which corrode over time, and they come in shiny blank options. The latest ones, there used to be black screws in the front also, but over time that corroded. So they changed to blank screws and blank screws for the button too. But to be aware of that, when you get a new button from Poseidon, if you get it on warranty, you should be a happy boy or a happy girl. And if you need to buy them, they are like, I heard prices around $70 that people have to pay for them each. And the thing is that when you get the new buttons, the hole here for the screw is not threaded. Sorry about that. My screen is not with me right now. So the hole here for the screw is not threaded. So you cannot have an Allen key that looks like this with a ball at the end, because that is not stable enough for you to push it down, because you are actually creating the threads when you are screwing it in the first time. You really need to have a, I don't know if you can see this in the bright light, but it's a screwdriver Torx 6. And you really need to push it down when you are screwing it in, so you're holding it steady and then slowly go in with the screwdriver, and then you will thread the threads. And don't over tighten it, because it's very easy to damage the threads when you're tightening the screw. So the screw should be like this. No, not like this. So you have a gap in between the screw, and then we need to do a little bit like, if to illustrate it, let's see what we can do. You need to be not like that. It should be at the bottom of the area or the material, but not over tightening it. Then you put the magnets, them in, and you just push once, and yeah, that's it. One misconception: but I can restart my computer if I hold in the buttons for 10 seconds. No. 10 seconds holding in the button only does one thing: restart screen driver. No resetting, no turning off and on, no rebooting, no nothing. This is the only thing that is done when you push in the two buttons at the same time. I've seen one or maybe two M28s. I've seen thousands of them. I repaired like 500 when I was working in the workshop, to update them from A to B and so on, and also repairing the other things. But as a computer person, you throw the manual over your shoulder and then you say, I know how this works. I can just reboot it by holding the buttons. No, it doesn't reboot. We will talk now about the software and everything, but this is the button thing. And now you know this. Let's talk about the software. Let's talk about the software. We need all the space we can get here. Okay, so we have the M28. The M28 has two layers. One is called PMIC, and the other one is called OS. Two different circuit boards, two different brains, two different power management and so on. This is all about the buttons and the screen and everything about the operating system. And this is the power management. And there is also one thing, that the M28 can store the software for PMIC and store the software for the operating system inside a hidden folder. Actually, it's just a PMIC, to be frank. Manfred will kill me when he sees this. So it can have like a hidden folder, and that is the reason why you can update a 7 or a hood or a paddle with an M28 connected, because we are pushing down, and since the operating system is not present in the hood, in the screen, in the display, paddle display and the 7, there is no need for that software to go down there. At current, this is the versions of the different software. And it's a long story why it's not the same version, but it is not. and they cannot change it. I've tried hundreds of times to explain to them that, like Apple is doing now, they're going from iOS 18 to 26 because they want to have an iOS that is 2026. It will not happen over time in Poseidon, I can tell you that, but it doesn't matter. And now they just totally lost it with Reef and so on, but we will come to that later. So what we have now here is that we can connect here a CAN cable, CAN, going to USB A. Inside here is a microprocessor, because if you put this one in the USB A, there will be full power going in without control, and that works in a modern design like the M28, but it doesn't work in an old design called 7. So this means that if you're connecting this one to your 7 without having this microcontroller inside here, it doesn't work, because you will then burn your electronics. So inside here we also have PMIC 204. This is what's causing this firmware mismatch things, everything. I will explain in a sec. So once you connect this one, you got a PC. You got a PC and or a Mac, and you install the RB config 1.44. It's found on the webpage. You can download it, and everything's happy days. They are not supporting that program anymore, that software anymore, so there will not be a, maybe not a 1. There is a 45 inside the house, but let's say there will never be a 2.0 on the RB config, because it's old programming. They have given this up. They are doing it with the Reef, and we will talk about Reef in a sec. So to update this guy, or to fix it from blinking red, I will explain what's happening, why it's blinking red, and how to fix it. It's not rocket science. It's just two different software that needs to go inside here, and when it's blinking red, this is not present and this is not running. So what we have here now is that we have a cloud where we have the software of 267 and 204, and these are downloaded to the computer once you start RB-config. So it's connected to the Poseidon server, and you get it downloaded to a folder. That folder is present in the documents, and it's called Poseidon RB firmware. That's on the PC, on the documents, and on the Mac, it is in your local folder, like the home folder of your user. And it's also a hidden folder, and you can find it by, on the PC you have to show hidden folders, and on the Mac you can have to go to folder, and then you can write in, this is like a tilde sign, and you do this, or yeah. It's not important, because we are way past this fiddling with firmware, manually loading, blah 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 blah. Forget about it. It's just over the moon when it comes to people who tries to use it in a way that I don't know why, but now we have 2.04, and it's stable. It worked for a couple of years, and there is not one version coming out soon with 2.05 or something, but yeah, it will eventually come to the next level, of course. But once you go into the PC, you click the sign of a CAN symbol. It looks like this. And that is the contact. If you look into the CAN contact, you will see this form. And then you click on the wheel that's on the far right side of the symbols. So first the CAN symbol and then the wheel. And here you choose USB. And it's a little bit confusing because it says sometimes CUSB, which means CAN USB. And then you click OK. This means that you told the RB config to use the USB for looking for something on the CAN bus. And then you click open. You cannot change anything here in the settings or so when you have it open. So if you've done it wrong and clicked open first, you need to close it first, go into settings, change to USB, OK, and then click open again. And if everything is normal, you should see a sign of a photo of the M28 and the cable. And then you're good. And at this point you can choose in the CAN menu, you can choose M28 update. It will then copy down the 2.04 to begin with, the PMIC software, and it will start by erasing everything on the board. And then it will write the PMIC and it will restart. Because once the PMIC is inside, it always starts. Then it's always on. But if you uploaded or updated from 2.42 and 193, which is the earlier version of the software, that was the major software that everybody was using, and the relationships between 2.42 and 193 is written in the software, so that is a relation that is fixed, which means that if you are having like 193 and you update the PMIC to 204, then you have 242 on the OS, which makes it a mismatch. So once this is restarted, it will ask you to turn on Wi-Fi. You will choose Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi is, you find it in the settings, connect Wi-Fi access point on. Then you go out and then you will have the symbol on the M28, you have the Wi-Fi symbol. And in the Wi-Fi network, you go into the PC, you will find a network that is called M28 and your serial number. It's only one in the room, and you have the serial number on the back of your M28. So connect to that one, and the password is Matterhorn. Not V, N, R, N. R, N. Matterhorn. Because the guy who's invented this one, he likes mountains and he likes Matterhorn in Europe. Then you are connected here because it says connect to the Wi-Fi. You connect to the Wi-Fi and then you click OK, and then it will copy down the OS version of 2.67. And this means that you are done. Up and down, you move your computer from an old version to the latest version. Both versions of software is inside, and happy days. The problem is just that when you connect it next time to the charger, and your charger has an old PMIC inside, it will tell you still that you have a firmware mismatch, but read the sign. So when you have the screen, there is a text saying that mismatch CUSB, and then you click both buttons and you choose firmware update, and it will copy 2.04 from the hidden folder down and update the cable. Happy days. Suddenly you have 2.04 here. No more mismatch everything is fine, everybody is happy. Then, if you're using an iPhone charger, which has like 4.8 volt and 0.8 amps, or even 5 volts and 0.8 amps, that is not enough for the M28 to charge correctly. It needs, the ideal version is 5.1 volt and 2 amps. The iPad charger, which was a little bit bigger, you could use because it was 5.0 volt and 2 amps. But don't go with a smaller, because what happens is that the battery inside the M28, if you put it on this charger, it will go slowly down, and if you leave it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's actually draining the battery because it's not charging enough. So eventually you will find yourself going to 0, and when you have 0% here, the lithium battery inside will die. There is a bug somewhere, and they cannot say when it happens and why it happens, but I can tell you, when people have been doing this, from my experience working in the shop, when people has a bad charger, they keep on charging it, they believe that they are charging it, and it's actually draining it, and then they leave it in the basement for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, and then it suddenly starts blinking red. Why? It's because the power has gone down so long, so the battery is broken, and then suddenly PMIC is not starting. And the bug lays in that it doesn't matter if you are able to charge it more, because the PMIC is actually power management control somewhere. So this means that it's not able to charge, and it's not, you cannot get it back, because you can actually have a dead M28, and that is not so nice when you have a $2,000 computer. So keep in mind that you should have a charger that is good enough. People who has them don't have any problems. I never had any problems. And when I have a red blinking machine, it's not rocket science. I only need to connect it to the PC, and I need to make sure that the PMIC is present. And if there is an interruption in some kind of update process and some kind of battery things, sometimes it comes to here. And then when it's writing down to the PMIC, it's interrupted by the PC screensaver, or the battery in the PC is gone. Something happens, so this is interrupted, which means that it's failed for the update. And once it's failed, it has already erased the software inside here, so you don't have anything here. So what you can do then is that you do the same, you connect it, but here, when you see the PC software and you only see a sign of a cable or a photo of a cable, you don't see the M28. You know that you're connected to the CAN, but you cannot see here because you don't have any software inside. It's not running. So what we can do now, since this procedure, when you do the update, M28 update, it checks from the version you have to the version you're going to and say, hey, it's okay to update, let's go and update. But now we have no software inside because the PMIC is gone. We erased it. So it cannot run. And since this is the engine, or the main engine of everything, means that we need to skip the update process, and we need to go to CAN menu and choose forced firmware. And I don't know how many explanations I had to people believing what it is and what is not. this is completely wrong word. This should actually just say copy the software without asking any questions. Nothing. It doesn't make your M28 fly to the moon or something, or update it to a super duper computer. It just copies the software down to where it belongs. So you can force the firmware to the 7, to the paddle, to the hood. Because even if you update the hood via this, you have this here, and then you connect it to the 7, and then you connect update. And during the update process is 5 things. It's the hood, battery, head, could be the paddle display. There is a lot of things that should be updated, and sometimes the hood has a timeout. The battery has a timeout, and you end up also with that there is no hood available on the CAN. You have the same thing. It has erased the software, and it failed on writing the PMIC down to the hood. So forced firmware ensures M28. This means that we are now copying down the PMIC 204 manually. And then it should restart on its own. So once you have done the forced firmware, beware, a lot of bewares, but we need to beware of something. Beware that if this fails, you can try it again. But if this fails, this little sucker can hang. So this means that every time you fail with a forced firmware, you need to pull the power from the USB charger on the wall, pull this one out from the M28, put it back in, connect via the RB config, blah blah blah, you see the cable, and then you go once again. Because if this one is hang or frozen, you will never get this one working. And that is a failure point when you are trying to fix a red blinking computer. You are not able to force firmware down to the PMIC and make it restart. So when it tries to start, it looks for the PMIC and asks, where is the software? Where is the software? I cannot start. I'm blinking red. I'm blinking red. Okay? There is one where it's blinking red, and there is one error saying that you have a solid red. And I'm not sure about, I don't remember what the difference is. But to fix a red blinking computer, I have to do the PC RB config, have the USB OK, and then you come here, and then you can see, if you only see the cable, you do the CAN force firmware M28, and it will restart. Happy days, and now you're gone. Not gone, but gone through this process. But if you did this and your PC computer has this software inside, or even more, you had 2.42 here, which is an old version. Then when it restarts, it will say to you that you have a firmware mismatch, and you need to update it. No problems. We only have to do a M28 update with the CAN menu, because once this is restarted, you will actually see the computer and the cable. So you will see, let's do a correct sketch here. You have the M28 like this, now the RB config screen like this, and then you have a picture of the M28, and you have the cable and the USB CAN. So you will see two pictures, and once you see the M28, the PMIC is running and the red lamp is gone. You then choose CAN menu, M28 update, and click just OK. Now the progress bar will go from 0 to middle in 1 second, because you already did the PMIC part of the update. And then we'll tell you to turn on Wi-Fi. You remember? Turn on Wi-Fi and continue. And then it will go with the operating system doing the last part here. And then it will restart itself. Done. So going from red blink to fixing things, connect it, make sure that you are just doing one thing at a time. No hang, no freeze, no nothing. And you go with the CANforce firmware M28. Make sure that the software is downloaded 100%. And then it will restart itself. But if it only goes to 80% and it fails, it can be many different situations, because you have the PC and blah, 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 blah. You just do it again. But before you do it again, you need to disconnect it, disconnect everything, connect it again, and then you will find this, since you're still in open and the CAN menu is there, you should get it to here. Maybe you need to go down to this CUSB OK, connect it until you see the cable again. When you see only the cable, so there is no M28 picture on the page. When you see the cable, you know that I did pull this, I pushed it in again. You push CANforce firmware M28 and it goes all the way, and then you have fixed the red blink. And since you are fixing a version that has already the 267 inside, then it's happy days and you're good to go. If you are updating from an older version and it fails somehow, then you can have this mismatch thing. But it's easy to just always choose the M28 update, because that will do the trick. But if you have a red blinking thing, you need to go with the force firmware. And what people fail when they cannot fix the red blink is that it fails to write down, and you need to retry maybe once or twice. You need to unplug it, plug it up again, connect it again, and force firmware again, until it suddenly just runs. There are some crazy stuff. I had one last week. Actually, I had one last week. A customer came to me and said that, oh, it doesn't start. It worked perfectly until now, and blah, blah, blah. And she had a weak charger. And when I connect it to the software, I can see that the PMIC is not running. M28 main is not running. This means that the PMIC is not running, and I cannot, even if I do the force firmware, I cannot fix it. And the biggest problem with this is that Poseidon cannot even fix it. Sometimes they can connect a programming tool here and reprogram the whole circuit board and everything, and bam, maybe sometimes it will just turn on, and they will be fixing it for a normal rate. Maybe you will pay like $50 or $100 to fix it, and they will be happy to do that. But sometimes, as I had the problem last week, is that it will cost me $400 to change the circuit board inside the M28, because it's blinking red. They cannot tell why it's not working, and when they have a bad day and the warranty is out, I'm so sorry. You will never ever get it for free. And yeah, your $2,000 computer is malfunctioning, and they will charge you $500-600 to fix it. One last thing about the battery. The computer looks like this. There is a depth sensor inside here. There is a battery here. There is a circuit board, and then there is a display here. Battery. when you put it on, because the battery has a certain size, a certain current, certain power and so on, because there is a limited space inside the box. So if you put it on 100% brightness high and 100% brightness low, this is when it's bright around the computer. There is sensors on the outside of the M28 or on the front. You don't see them too much, but they are, if you tilt it a little bit, you can see the opening in the black area outside the screen. But when you have brightness high, when the surroundings are bright, you can put it on 100%, and then when you go underwater and it's darker, you can have the brightness here. And the thing is that if you put it on 100, and then there is also a screensaver, which you turn off. Then you will have 4 hours. What we have found out, the perfect settings for the battery is high 50, good enough for you to see. Low is 35. Underwater you will see 35. You put the screensaver on 7%, which means that you will also be able to see it underwater if you look. And the time for the screensaver, you can have it on 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 60 seconds or whatever. At least, let's say, okay, I can even do this. Now, if you are experienced and you want to push it a little bit, low 35, and the screensaver, I set it to 1 or 0. If I put it to 0, it will not draw any current at all or any power at all, because the screen is a big consumer of the power. This means that it goes completely black. If there is an alarm, it will light up to 50% or 35% if there's low light conditions around. If you push a button, it will come on, and then after 10 seconds, when nothing is normal, it will go back to 0. And here it will at least glow in the dark when you're diving, and if you push a button, it will light up a little bit, and if there's an alarm, it will light up the same amount. But to put these settings inside the M28 will save you a lot of hustle when it comes to battery life. Turn the machine off in between the dives. So if you're doing a before lunch dive, and then you have a lunch or a break for 3 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours, you turn it off. It takes 2.5 minutes to start the 7. So don't leave the machine on. If you have the paddle display, you're dependent only on the battery on the back of the machine, which means that you have 15 to 20 hours of power on the paddle display. And then you can leave the machine on for the complete day. That is the trick with the battery. Oh, one more thing. The O-ring here. There is an O-ring because here, on the underside here, if we look on the underside of the computer, you have 2 small holes. That is where water comes in. There is also 2 holes on the side, so the water can circulate a little bit. But the O-ring there will wear out. And there is no service program, there is no thought of this from the manufacturer. They have no clue about this, how to solve this somehow. But what I'm saying is that if this O-ring fails after 4 years, you will have water inside here and the complete unit will be flooded. and it will cost you up to $1,000 to fix, because they need to change the circuit board. They need to change everything, because you got salt water inside. This O-ring fails on the warranty. It also fails occasionally, so there can be moisture inside here. So when you have moisture inside of the screen, it's on its way to be flooded. But if you're lucky enough, they only need to change the O-ring and so on, repairing it. And that repair is maybe $100. But what I'm saying is that every 2-3 years, maybe 3 years, let's say 3 years, you send in the computer to Poseidon. And they will change this $1 O-ring. Pressure test it and send it back to you. I know that the history from Poseidon, warranty issues and repairs and stuff, has not been ideal, but I know for sure now that they are more in the game right now, and they understand this. So sending it into support and saying, hey, I want to service my O-ring here on the depth sensor so it doesn't fail me, because you don't want your $2,000 unit to break down or to be flooded or just go down the drain. I mean, Poseidon is not like Morris and Apex and so on. It's not 100, 200 people hired. They are 6 people, 7 people on the office. They are 3 people in production and 1 warehouse. But they are getting better into returning repairs and so on. So please send it in to have it serviced 3-4 years to make sure that it doesn't get flooded. So now you learn about the buttons, you learn about the update procedure, about the red blinking thing, about the battery settings to keep it running for as long as possible when you're diving, to be aware of here when you look at the depth sensor. Make sure that you rinse it, and send it in for service. So that's all with the missing manual for the M28, and I hope it will help you have some happy days with the computer and with the 7 rebreather when you're diving. Cheers!